Been reading that book you told me about. You know, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I mean, here's this guy, a Chinese general, wrote this thing 2,400 years ago. And most of it still applies today. Balk the enemy's power, force him to reveal himself. You know, most of the guys that I know, they read Prince Machiavelli. But this book is much better about strategy.
On the desk of one of television's most infamous mob bosses sits a book. Not a ledger, not a Bible, not even a telephone directory with several unfortunate names circled in red. A book. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Tony Soprano reads it, quotes it, recommends it to the men around him. For a while, it appears to work. He becomes more calculating, more patient, better at concealing what he wants. He learns to make other people nervous while appearing perfectly calm himself. But Tony makes the mistake people often make with books about power. He underlines the parts that flatter him and quietly ignores the parts that might change him. By the end, almost everything he claimed to be protecting has been damaged. His crew, his family, his health, and whatever remained of his ability to trust another human being. Tony understood how to deceive an enemy. He never understood how to stop creating them. Tony's relationship with strategy begins, appropriately enough, in therapy. He arrives there because his own body has begun rebelling against him. He cannot breathe. His vision closes in. He collapses. This is a man who can threaten another person without raising his voice, yet he cannot persuade his own nervous system that he is safe. During his early sessions, his psychiatrist, Dr. Jennifer Melfi, asks about the family of ducks that had been living in his swimming pool. Tony had watched them, fed them, worried about them. Then they flew away, and shortly afterwards, he fell apart. She asks him why their departure affected him so deeply. Tony shrugs. Animals leave, children grow up, people become ungrateful. That is life. She asks whether he feared losing his own family. He says, everyone fears that. Then he moves quickly towards safer territory, business, loyalty, respect, the sort of subjects that allow him to discuss emotion without admitting he has any. He explains that people must know there are consequences. She asks whether being feared is the same as being respected. Tony says that where he comes from, the distinction is mostly academic. Melfi lets the silence sit between them. She understands something Tony does not. His entire idea of safety depends upon controlling whether other people stay or leave. The ducks leave. His mother withdraws her love. His uncle challenges his authority. His children develop lives he cannot supervise. Every departure feels like an attack, and every attack, in Tony's mind, requires a response. Later in the series, Melfi suggests the art of war. It gives Tony a language he finds much more comfortable than the language of therapy. Enemies, terrain, deception, victory. No childhood, no vulnerability. No frightened boy waiting for his mother to decide whether she loves him that day. Just strategy. Tony embraces the book enthusiastically, but he does not really read it as an argument. He reads it as a collection of weapons. The idea that warfare depends upon deception appeals to him because deception is already the architecture of his life. He deceives the police, his enemies, his wife, and his therapist. Most importantly, he deceives himself. Know your enemy and know yourself becomes, for Tony, a lesson in gathering intelligence. Discover what the other man wants. Locate his weakness. Apply pressure. But knowing yourself requires something rather less glamorous. It requires admitting what provokes you, what frightens you, what you cannot control. Tony studies everybody in the room, except Tony.
The popular image of Sun Tzu is of a cold, military genius teaching powerful men how to crush their opponents. The actual book is much less flattering to powerful men. Again and again, it warns against vanity, anger, and needless confrontation. It treats open warfare not as proof of strength, but as an expensive failure of planning. Its highest form of victory is defeating resistance without battle. Its successful commander knows when to fight, and, more importantly, when not to. Tony absorbs the deception. He misses the restraint. After another violent decision he refuses to describe clearly, Melfi asks whether he ever considers allowing an insult to pass unanswered. Tony laughs. In his world, he explains, one unanswered insult becomes two. Then everyone begins testing the fence. Eventually, someone comes through it. Melfi asks a simple question. Has responding to every insult actually made him safer, or has it merely made him exhausted? Tony looks away. He complains about the temperature in the room, then the parking, then someone who irritated him on the drive over. The subject has changed, the question has not. Tony believes his anger protects him because people retreat when they see it. But anger also makes him predictable. Anyone who understands his pride can steer him, question his authority, mention his mother, laugh at him, refuse to show fear. Tony thinks these people are discovering his strength. They are actually discovering his controls. Sun Tzu also warns about prolonged conflict. A campaign that drags on consumes money, loyalty, energy, and attention. Even the winning side emerges weakened. That is precisely what happens to Tony. His conflict with his uncle does not make the family stronger. His hostility towards Ralph does not stabilize his crew. His handling of Tony Blundetto does not protect his position with New York. His resentment of Phil Leotardo does not remain a manageable business dispute. Every conflict becomes personal because Tony cannot separate leadership from wounded pride. He wins individual confrontations, but each victory leaves fewer people beside him. This is attrition. Not simply the loss of soldiers, but the slow destruction of the structure that makes leadership possible. Trust disappears. Capable people die. Others become informants. The survivors begin looking nervously towards the exits. And Tony, sitting at the center of it all, concludes that the answer is still more control. There is a contradiction at the center of Tony Soprano. He is extremely perceptive about other people and remarkably dishonest about himself. He notices envy, greed, and insecurity almost immediately. He knows which man wants money, which wants status, and which simply wants to feel included. Yet when the same weaknesses appear in him, he renames them. His greed becomes responsibility. His jealousy becomes vigilance. His rage becomes leadership. His fear becomes instinct. This is why therapy can make Tony more effective without necessarily making him better. It gives him new ways to recognize motives, but instead of using that knowledge to examine himself, he often uses it to manage everyone else. Insight becomes surveillance. Melfi observes that the men Tony most admires are not always the loudest or the most violent. They are the men who wait, men who allow an opponent to make the first mistake, men who do not need everyone in the room to acknowledge their power. Tony says that sounds very elegant from an office chair. His world, he insists, is different. Melfi asks whether the violence is always about business, or whether some of it comes from needing to feel that he controls the room. Tony's expression changes. He checks his watch. The session, he announces, is over. And there it is. Tony can leave the room. He cannot leave the question. If he truly knew himself, he would recognize that humiliation frightens him more than prison. Abandonment frightens him more than death. He would see that many of his wars begin not when his position is threatened, but when his identity is. That is the enemy Sun Tzu told him to study. Not New York, not the FBI, not the man sitting across the table. The frightened, furious part of himself that interprets restraint as surrender. Tony never conquers it. He keeps mistaking its voice for wisdom. Tony is fictional. The mistake is not. Al Capone cultivated visibility, expensive suits, interviews, charitable gestures, and a public reputation larger than the criminal organization beneath it. But an operation dependent upon secrecy cannot endlessly celebrate its own celebrity. Capone was not finally defeated in a dramatic street battle. He was imprisoned for tax evasion. The performance of power produced records. The records did what rival gunmen could not. John Gotti made a similar bargain. He enjoyed the image of the untouchable boss and treated public attention as evidence of victory. The newspapers called him the Teflon Don because major charges repeatedly failed to hold. But attention is not armor. Federal investigators kept listening. His underboss, Sammy Gravano, eventually cooperated with prosecutors. The threat was not a stranger approaching from outside. It was a trusted man already inside the room. Pablo Escobar possessed enormous wealth and political influence. Yet he escalated from bribery and intimidation into visible warfare against the Colombian state. Bombings and assassinations demonstrated his reach. They also united his enemies. Each public act of power narrowed his choices until survival itself became the only remaining objective. Whitey Bulger believed his corrupt relationship with federal agents made him untouchable. For years, information functioned as protection. But temporary usefulness is not permanent security. When that protection failed, Bulger spent 16 years as a fugitive. Different men, different organizations, the same confusion. Aggression mistaken for strategy, visibility mistaken for power, temporary leverage mistaken for control. They won confrontations while constructing the conditions of their eventual defeat. Sun Tzu might have recognized each of them immediately, a war already being lost, dressed as a series of victories. So what's inside the box? Not a pistol, not an indictment, not the final answer to what happened in that diner. Just the book, closed now, dog-eared, remembered in fragments, underlined wherever it confirms the reader's existing view of himself. Tony keeps searching its pages for a better way to defeat other people. But the lesson waiting for him is quieter than that. Choose fewer battles. Do not let anger select the terrain. Do not confuse fear with loyalty. And before attempting to understand an enemy, understand the person declaring them one. Tony Soprano learned how to appear strong. He learned how to deceive, intimidate, and wait for the right moment. But he never learned the discipline beneath the strategy. He never seriously asked whether the next war was necessary, or whether he needed it simply to feel like himself. That is what destroyed him. Not one enemy, not one decision. The inability to imagine strength without conflict. What's inside the box was never the war. It was the part of the book he refused to read.